Welcome, everybody. This is Market Minute with Chris and Trystan, and you're watching episode 4, The Pathway to Prosperity Through Real Estate. I'm joined again with Trystan King from Stonehouse Realty. Trystan, how are you doing this morning?
Doing great. It's a beautiful day. Market's getting busier. How are you?
Doing well, man. Why don't you, on the note here, why don't you give us a quick update on the market and what's going on?
Yeah, very, very interesting, kind of what everything is happening. I think sort of dating back to when COVID first struck, market was absolutely dead for 2 weeks. Everything was on pause. We got last month statistics through, and basically, I mean, the number of transactions were down about, say, 50%. But something that no one's really talking about is the sales to list ratio actually remained relatively unchanged. It was down sort of in some areas, but that just sort of shows that the number in inventory is way down. We're actually at about half the inventory we're at April of 2019. So prices were relatively unchanged. I do think May is going to be a lot busier. We're starting to see more buyers sort of come into the market. We're getting a lot more showing requests on our listing. So I think that we will see more transactions. What happens to, say, the price, no one really knows, but at least it's a lot healthier of a market sort of this month.
I'm good. And on today's topic here, I know this speaks a lot to you and what inspired you to get into real estate in the first place here. Do you want to talk about that as well?
Yeah, definitely. So, I got into real estate. It wasn't just to sell real estate. I actually have a passion for investing in real estate. It's sort of what I was brought around. So yeah, I've just seen people do really well in it. And I think that I have intrinsic knowledge of sort of the outcomes, but I'm really excited for you to basically lay down all the numbers and really prove the fact.
I am too. And you'll notice here that our windows are kind of cutting off some of our contact information here. You don't have to worry if you wanted to take down our information. At the very last two slides, you're going to get one for Trystan's information and one for me as well. There's no real spot to put our windows without covering up some of the other details here in these slides. But we wanted to include, of course, our conversation and back and forth in this episode and continue to have us face to face in these meetings together. So one thing you're going to notice here is with respect to the branding, right? So we're actually in the process of rebranding. I've already registered with the appropriate parties here. So this is official now that Adkins Healy and Associates is our new branding. I promoted my long-term assistant into business partner status. So we're rebranding into Adkins Healy and Associates, and it's still being powered by the mortgage group. We haven't left the mortgage group. We love them there. Continue to be part of our main family here, but Adkins Healy and Associates and our rebranding. That's something that you'll see more of in the weeks to come, but I just wanted to share that news just to not forget.
Congratulations. It's exciting. I like the name too. It's got a nice ring to it.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, we're excited too. So you'll see more information on that coming forward in the next couple of weeks as well. Okay. But that's a sidebar. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. So pathway to prosperity, right? Why leveraging OPM is the key to building personal wealth. Now, we'll talk about what OPM actually stands for a little bit later on. It's not quite what you think. I'm sure, the first blush probably has you thinking something else, but we'll get down to that here in a few slides. Okay. But at first, disclaimer, this is not advice. These are my opinions, and my opinion is that real estate investment is a better bet than any other investment out there. Would you agree with that?
I agree 100%.
Okay, well, you can see some numbers that will definitely support that in these next slides. So 3 burning questions. What's the best way to build wealth for retirement? That's a question that we get all the time here in the financial sector. And often that is something reserved for people's financial planner. But how can we save for my child's education? Again, the most common vehicle is registered education savings plans. And that certainly is a good one to have as part of our portfolio. But often it isn't enough by the time our kids are ready to go to university.
Yeah.
Another one that I get all the time is how can I pay off my mortgage faster? And we'll get through that. So these are the 3 burning questions that most people have trouble answering. And here's what we've been taught here. We've been taught, work hard, live cheap, and invest whatever you don't spend. Like, have you had that same sort of advice growing up?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what you're taught at a young age through school, that kind of thing. So
yeah, exactly. So essentially, like whatever we don't spend, we should invest and hope to have enough savings for retirement. And that's like kind of a hope and a prayer for a lot of people, especially if we start the investment side and you open up your portfolio for retirement later in your later years in life, that's where the hope comes in. I hope that I have enough for savings for retirement. I hope I can live comfortably in my retirement years,
Yeah.
right? So something like this. I've heard this before, and this just speaks volumes to a lot of people. Work hard, save all your money, so when you're old, you can afford things that only young people enjoy. You can see this old gentleman on a motorcycle here, and that's the irony is that by the time we're ready for retirement, we're almost too old to enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
We
No,
work really hard all our lives in order to get to this point here, but are we capable? Are we physically capable to be able to do the things we want to do when we're working for 50 years?
to fully enjoy it, right?
Well, that's it, right? But this is how we're going to help, and it's really through other people's money as well. Okay. So the problem with this plan is how much wealth you build is largely dependent on when you started investing and how much money you've actually invested, right? So how much wealth you build, it's going to be contingent on how much you contribute and if you contribute early enough. So
Yeah.
if you're lucky enough to contribute when you're 18, 19, 20, and you contribute every year, well then yeah, and if you line up with a good financial planner, you're going to have a decent amount to retire on. But with other factors at play, it might not be enough, right? Because one thing, the stock market is volatile and it's unpredictable. We've seen it just most recently here in the response to COVID-19. Of course, 10, 12 years ago with the financial crisis, a lot of people's portfolio took a huge hit, and the
Yeah.
profit and loss is largely emotionally charged, right? And it might not be, you might be of sound mind, you might not be one to emotionally react to blips in the radar here, but it's not necessarily just you we have to worry about because it's the collective whole, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so a lot of that is largely out of your control. So investing early and often is a great strategy, but these are the factors that are out of your control.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think we've seen that real estate is a much safer investment over just history.
Well, yeah, definitely. So the problem with this plan as well, saving for your child's future education, so for university, or paying off your mortgage in a quicker timeline, or building wealth for retirement requires a lot of your own money, right? But isn't this a big issue too? Isn't the rising cost of living making it harder and harder for us to save? Like we
Yeah. The
live,
cost of living in Vancouver is crazy.
right? So like year over year, like whatever you bought last year is going to be more expensive this year. That's called inflation, right? But that's basically the rising cost of living is getting harder and harder to save. We have to make sacrifices in other areas in order to save the same amount of money as we did last year or the year before that.
Yeah.
Right? So it gets harder and harder to save. There's another problem here. Post-secondary education is getting more expensive year over year. We're talking about the same thing here about inflation, but it speaks volumes to most people's pain points. Where how do I save? Like if I'm not cutting expenses and I'm not saving more money than I'm spending, like how am I going to get ahead? The other one is that if I'm bringing a child into this world, how am I going to be able to afford to send them to post-secondary education and get them into university, 18, 20 years down the road.
Yeah.
And of course, when like something for you and I, rising housing prices means larger mortgages and more money, i.e. down payment and income needed to qualify. So again, speaking to inflation and the rising cost of living expenses, rising housing prices is a big part of it, right?
Yep. No, for sure.
So I'm going to show you how you save these 3 pain points, okay? How do we solve them, right? To get a second job? A lot of
Good.
people. Yeah, you could. I know I've got a lot of clients who have second jobs. They work a regular 9 to 5, and then they're working part-time on the weekend, or they're working a nighttime shift somewhere else, right? And for
Yeah.
me, it doesn't speak to a high quality of life, but it's most people's go-to and almost a necessity for some people if they want to live in a more expensive area.
Yep.
To
No,
afford
yeah, I have clients that are doing the same thing, working throughout the day and then working a graveyard because they're saving up to put their kids through school. So
There you go, right? Well, here's another option. You want to live like a monk? right? We were talking about expenses versus income. Well, really, like if your income stayed the same, in order to actually save more money, you might have to live like a monk and banish all materialistic goods, sell everything, become a minimalist, and really live a quarantine life for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Pretty sure everyone knows that they do not want to do that at this point.
Exactly. That's exactly it, right? So that's not on my radar. I don't want to live like a monk. I enjoy the fruits of my labor and I want to live my best life. And
Mm,
quarantine life for the rest of my life is not there.
no.
So how do we solve these three pain points? The answer to all three may be to buy and own investment property or properties. And that's where you and I come in here, and your background and my background can really help people get ahead.
Yeah.
How do we do that? I talked about it before. Got to leverage OPM. And OPM doesn't stand for what you think it is. What does it stand for?
Other people's money.
You got it, brother. That's it. So other people's money is going to come into play here for buying investment property. So investment property ownership can solve these pain points. You can pay off your mortgage in 10 years or cut your amortization in half. You can put your kids through university and you can build extra wealth for retirement. So let's go down this example. What if you had $100,000 available and you brought that money into the bank and you said, I want to start my own business, or I want to contribute to the stock market or my real estate portfolio, my retirement portfolio, i.e. my RSPs, my TFSAs, mutual funds. Most often, you're not going to get an equal contribution back from the bank. And if you did, it's going to be by way of debt, right? So
Yeah.
if you're lucky enough that you have $100,000 to bring and start your own business, if you're lucky enough, the bank will give you $100,000 back as well. They'll match your initial investment. Same
Yeah.
with stocks, right? If you
Yeah.
have 100,000, you're lucky enough, the bank might match your initial investment, and now you have $200,000 to invest. But look at the number for property. If you have 100,000 to start with, what is the bank's comfort level when the asset is property?
That's 4 times your initial investment, which definitely speaks to where they feel the safe investment is.
You got it. There's the risk, right? So here's where we start. We start with 100 of your own, 100 from the bank, and you've got 200 to start your business. When you're buying a business, are you actually buying like an appreciating asset, or are you buying a job? Are you buying a nine to five, or maybe more accurately, a 9 to 9 job?
9 to 9, 7 days a week, every single day.
That's it. So you're buying a burden almost, right? And shares, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, TFSAs, your RSPs. Like really, if you get the matching 100,000 from your initial investment from the bank, usually that's only reserved for high net worth clients. And even if you did receive it, it's by way of debt. You have to pay that back over time as well. But when it comes to property, your asset that you're starting with is 500,000 instead of 200,000, or more realistically, 100,000 in these two examples here.
Yeah.
But let's just say your goal was to make 100,000 over a 5-year period. That seems pretty lofty of a goal for business and for the stock market, right? But let's see what happens. If you wanted to do that for your business, you need a 50% return. And for shares, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, RSPs, TFSAs, again, a 50% return. But what do you need when it comes to property? 20%.
Yeah.
Speaks again to volume. It speaks volumes again, right? As far as the risk tolerance for the bank. So what would you like, a 25% return on your investment? Let's see what happens there. You purchase an investment property for 500,000. You invest your 100 and the bank lends you 4. So let's say that the property increases by 5% per year. Okay.
Mm-hmm. To the very safe forecast.
Well, yeah, like you looked at numbers before from what, 1970 to current, like for the last 50 years.
Every 10 years, but yeah, dating back to 1970, the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver released a graph, and every 10 years it's doubled.
That's crazy, right? But so look at 500,000 right now. Your 500,000 property is now worth 525, which is up by 25,000. You've got a 25% return on your 100,000 investment. We haven't even talked about the compound effect. So the compound effect, the power of owning just one investment property. Look what happens if you start at 500,000 year one, If it grows by 5% for the first year, there's 25,000 increase in value, or you're at 525. Take
Wow.
that 525 to year two and apply the same rules. And again to year three, and you extrapolate over the entire 5 years. At the end of the 5 year timeline, your value of your property went from 500 to 638, 141. So just in the market value alone, the difference between the initial purchase price and the new value is $138,000.
Wow.
But don't forget, you had a mortgage on this property and you've been paying it down over the last 5 years as well. But in fact, you've been using other people's money to do it. It's your
Yeah.
tenant for this. And just basing it off on, an estimated 3.5% interest rate per year, or like for the term, 51,709. That's what you're paying. That's what your tenant is paying your mortgage down by. So your actual net at the end of this is 189,850.
And that's
Right?
just after 5 years.
That's just after 5 years.
Insane.
Right? So potential increase after 5 years, you know that number there, right? Look what happens in 10 years,
Wow.
right? Look what happens in 20 years
Wow.
and 30.
Yeah. That's
Do you
cool.
think you can get that kind of return if you started a business 30 years ago? What if you invested, the same 100,000 in the stock market? Do you think you're going to have $2.1 million after 30 years?
I would not bet on it. Nope.
Not unless you have a rock star financial planner, right? And
Yeah.
you just catch everything at day one. If you buy an Amazon at day one, if you're buying Tesla at day one, maybe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe if you're lucky. But look at what happens with your 100,000 investment. Which, as a reminder, that was 20% of your purchase price of 500. Look at year one. Look at that annual return. Look at your full return after 5 years.
Wow.
Right? Look at it after 10 years.
Yeah.
And then 20 years.
Wow.
And then 30 years just blows my mind.
That blows my mind as well. It's nice to have the numbers, because the numbers are all accurate and it's 100%.
Well, it's 61% is what it is.
Yeah.
More than 100% here. But when we're asking about those pain points here, how do you pay off your mortgage in 10 years? Look at the 10-year number. Don't forget, you started with a mortgage of 400,000 and you've been paying it down over 10 years. So even after 5, you're paying it off over 50,000. So you're definitely below 300 on your balance of your mortgage, right?
Yeah.
And then, are you paying this off? What if you had the mortgage on your existing property around that amount too? You can keep the investment property, pay off your own mortgage.
Yeah.
Just keep the investment property rocking and rolling and bringing in money for you, right?
And this is just on one investment property. So it's very safe. A lot of people maybe say after 10 years, 5 years, they might even pull that money and leverage more property. And sort of once they retire, they have a full real estate portfolio.
You got it, man. Well, look what happens for 20 years. We gave that timeline before, 18, 20 years. If you invested day one, once your child is born and brought into this world, you invested dollar number one on day number one. Do you think in 20 years you're going to have 1.1 million in your RESP? Probably,
Nope.
Probably not. But in 20 years, you can pay for your first, second, third, fourth kid for any education here post-secondary in 20 years' time, and you can have really the pick of the litter as far as what school you want to send your child to.
Yeah. No, those are crazy numbers.
In Canada or abroad, really, at this point.
Yeah.
But building wealth for retirement, that's a third pain point here. How do I build wealth for retirement? Look at this after 30 years. Most people, if you start early and often and contribute early and often, you have 30 to 50 years of contributions. But if you had to play a little bit of catch up because you had a lot of student debt of your own, so you didn't start your investment early and you had to play a little bit of catch up, real estate is a great vehicle for you to invest in to really complement your own efforts when it comes to building your own personal net worth.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So what now? We talked offline about having 5 people in your corner. You want to have a mortgage broker. You want to have a good realtor. You also want to have a good financial planner, a good lawyer, and a good accountant. So you can take advantage of these tax deductibilities and making sure that you're leveraging and you're making sure that every plan and everything you're doing is tax efficient, You've got a flexibility built into your mortgage plan. So not only are you starting off with an efficient mortgage payment that pays off your mortgage more quickly and more efficiently, but also part of any plan I put together for my clients is making sure that there's flexibility built into that plan as well. So if you have a lift in your own value, you want to take advantage of that equity, you can
Yeah.
actually pull that money out of your mortgage, pay a significantly lower penalty than you would if you had the same mortgage with one of the big banks,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
take advantage of any opportunity that comes in there. So we want to make your mortgage flexible too. But when you have the money out of your property and you wanted to leverage other people's money in order to buy a real estate investment property, what are the keys that you're looking at for due
Yeah,
diligence?
I think it's extremely important to have everyone in your corner, and a realtor is going to look at the official community plan, sort of walk you through all the infrastructure that's going to be built in that area. I think location is the most important thing in real estate, and especially say with your investment property, because good location, you'll have good rents. So you'll have the tenants giving you, say, a little bit more there. So you'll have a little bit better of a cap rate, and also projecting for the future, sort of purchasing in maybe up and coming areas, an area where there is projected SkyTrain to go out there. It's not just yet. Once that SkyTrain's out there, you'll see all the property values rise in the area. So there's good things to look at when you're purchasing.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think it's really important. Location is absolutely a major component of a smart real estate investment, but you're also going to want to factor in what's the official community plan, what's coming down the pipe, and making sure that you take advantage of it. So if you line yourself up with the right realtor who knows all these hidden gems in the market, you're going to do yourself a big favor.
Exactly.
To summarize here, we talked about shares, business, property. Well, we've spoken to this. Property is what the bank banks on. And how can you pay off your home, pay for your kids' education, and build wealth for retirement using OPM, other people's money? You're borrowing from the bank for the mortgage. There's other people's money, level one. Level two is you're renting out the property, so you're using your tenant
Yep.
their rental income that they're paying you. That's level two of other people's money. OPM level three is the tax man. You're actually writing off. You're reducing your tax liability a great deal by being able to write off the interest portion of your mortgage payment on anything like an investment property that is meant to earn you a return. So it's a three-pronged attack here, and really if you include the five people in your corner and build that team of people you trust and you respect and are really knowledgeable in their field, you're going to be further ahead than you would if you just put $1 on day one here 20 years ago in the stock market or a business of your own.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the numbers speak for itself, and I appreciate you put this on. I think it's definitely educational to a ton of people out there.
Yeah, like it's a smart investment. I'm a real estate owner, you are as well, and we want to make sure that we're helping our clients achieve the same goals that we have for ourselves, right? So we're all in the same boat rowing together. As promised, here is Trystan's direct contact information. If you want to reach him, here's his cell phone, here's his email, and here's his website to check out more about Trystan King. And here's myself, right? So again, AHA Mortgages, it's the mortgage group. We're still part of the mortgage group. We haven't left that wonderful family. We're just partnering up here. It's myself and Jake. We are now partnering up officially, and it's Adkins Healy & Associates, aka AHA Mortgages, from the mortgage group. There's my cell phone, there's my email, there's my website. And till next week, have a good one there, Trystan.
Good stuff. Nice chatting with you, Chris. Have a good day.
Thanks, buddy.